they don't see the limitations for whatever reason. I don't understand it. There's certain guys where I don't understand why they latch onto. I've been yelled at for saying guys like Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey when he's healthy and Dalvin Cook are significantly better running backs than Miles Sanders. I've been yelled by Eagles fans about saying something
Really?
which is perhaps the least controversial thing I've ever said in my life. They've latched on to this guy. I don't know why.
With John McMullen, I'm Jody McDonald. That would make us the Mac and Mac Birds 365 guys. Thank JAKIB for hopping on. Always loved shooting the breeze with JAKIB. Hadn't caught up with him in a while. Glad to do so today. All right, J-Mac, you're probably going to enjoy this because I'll probably play bad cop for a couple of minutes here.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, both of us sung the praises of Nick Sirianni. And the job that he's doing for the entire year, and certainly his flexibility and the ability to not just have to try and hammer the round peg into the square hole. He is absolutely holding out his own water as a rookie head coach here in the National Football League. But I'll say that this week, he might have his toughest internal task so far this year. Not talking about the opposition, because playing Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs offense and the defending champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they've had some tough matchups against the team on the other side of the field. But he's got an issue he's got to deal with in his own locker room this week. Miles Sanders came out last week on social media and said, "I'm back," well before he was ever capable of playing because he was on IR and he hadn't sat 3 weeks yet. But he decided to push the envelope a little further and let everybody know that he's behind the physical issues that he had and he's ready to rock and roll and get back out there on the field. Well, there's an issue. The two guys who have been carrying the football for the Eagles have done a damn good job in Boston Scott and Jordan Howard. So they need to figure a way to get Miles Sanders back into the lineup without rocking the boat and losing what they've got going good right now. They've carried 3 backs for every single game so far this year, several of which Boston Scott never got a carry, never saw an offensive play, special teams only, but now he's become a key element to their running game. Kenny Gainwell is still their third down back, and he's getting a little less time than he used to and a little less touches, but at least he is still getting some. How does Nick Sirianni make 4 backs go into 3 active spots on game day? And if he doesn't handle it correctly, he's opening himself up for critique. Now, this is part of being a head coach in the National Football League. You have to do these things. You have to make tough decisions. You have to try and come up with a way to keep people happy and not have unrest in your locker room. This is really the first time he's faced it, John. If you can remember, please enlighten me. He's going to do this with his roster. He's going to give this many snaps to this guy and less to the other. I don't know that he's faced the critique he may have to face as to how he handles his running backs this week against New Orleans.
Yeah, well, they've made some roster decisions. You know, they benched some guys. Eric Wilson obviously was cut.
Did anybody question benching Eric Wilson?
No, that's what I mean. This is the most high-profile one. Jalen Reagor, a little bit. I mean, Quez Watkins has surpassed Jalen Reagor, but nobody cares.
Did anybody question that?
Nobody cares.
John McMullen or even Jody McDonald could have figured that one out.
Yeah. This is one where, it's clearly, as I mentioned to JAKIB, Miles Sanders is more talented than Jordan Howard or Boston Scott, clearly. On the other hand, clearly, for whatever reason, as I also said to JAKIB, the Eagles have been a better team with Jordan Howard and Boston Scott than Miles Sanders, because in essence, that's been the trade-off with Miles on the injured reserve. I think the first part is pretty easy. All four are active on game day. It's easy to do that. I mean, you just make a lesser player inactive. Everybody's on the game day roster. Ultimately, I think the way it's going to shake out is Boston Scott's going to be the odd man out. He's not going to play. He's going to be a special teams player. Um, and you're going to have Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard carrying the running part of it, and Kenny Gainwell will stay in the third down hurry up role. Ultimately, I think that's the way the Eagles are going to handle it. From my, you know, Jamal Stevenson and Nick Sirianni, I hope they're going to Miles Sanders and saying, "Look, you know, when the play is blocked for 4 yards, get me 4 yards." We've been talking about this for a while, you and I. Miles Sanders and Gary just said it as well. He's always looking to hit the home run. He's always looking to kick it outside. He's always looking, and the amount of negative plays when Miles is in there versus Jordan Howard is pretty significant. Jordan Howard's always going straight ahead. So the best of both worlds is what you want. You want the explosive guy who can hit the home run, but is going to take what's there as well. And then you're good. You're good to go. And that's what the Eagles are obviously going to work towards behind the scenes. But I mean, now they have empirical proof. They can take this to Miles Sanders and say, look, this group is a great run blocking group, even without Isaac Seumalo, even without Brandon Brooks, because that's what Landon Dickerson can do. That's what Jack Driscoll can do right now. When you put him in pass rushing situations where guys are coming at him at 3rd and 13, they're not great as rookie players. So the whole team is functioning on a higher level when it's, even if it's 2nd and 7 versus 2nd and 12, even if it's 3rd and 5 versus, 3rd and 13 because you're behind the sticks because of a lost run. Somehow you got to make Miles Sanders understand that. Hasn't understood that to this point, to be honest.
That's why I asked you the question about the locker room. I don't know if he'd pick up on the reference, but would Miles Sanders be willing to look Nick Sirianni in the eye and go, wait a minute, you're Wally Pippin me? That I got hurt and I've now lost my job because of that? That's just not right, coach. I don't know that anyone has had that issue with, like you mentioned, Quez Watkins moved ahead of Jalen Reagor as the would Jalen Reagor even have nerve enough to say something? I don't think so.
Yeah, they're not happy, but I hear what you're saying. Outside the walls, nobody's complaining. Outside the walls, for whatever reason, you and I have had this discussion as well. It's always, I can't put my finger on this. Miles Sanders is one of those guys who the fan base has embraced for whatever reason and think he's better than he is. And the other guys, they didn't embrace because understandably so. But Miles is a guy, no, Miles is not a bad player. I'm not trying to say that. He's a good player. He's a home run hitter.
Right.
I've always used another outdated reference. You use Wally Pipp. I'll use not quite as outdated, but I've always used Dave Kingman. Well, baseball players knew Dave Kingman had some limitations for the most part, but they loved the home runs. They don't see the limitations for whatever reason. I don't understand it. There's certain guys where I don't understand why they latch on to. I've been yelled at for saying guys like Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey when he's healthy and Dalvin Cook are significantly better running backs than Miles Sanders. I've been yelled by Eagles fans about saying something which is perhaps the least controversial thing I've ever said in my life. They've latched on to this guy. I don't know why. Now, maybe that's changed over this past 3 weeks because they've seen what this offense is capable as long as you keep it on schedule and ahead of the sticks. and you're not losing yardage and you're just gaining. Look, Jordan Howard admitted himself that he was getting no calls in the offseason. He thought his career might be over. This is not a dynamic running back. I compare him to Leroy Horde. We're going dated references. Leroy Horde had one of the great quotes. He's like, if you need 3 yards, I'm going to get you 3 yards. If you need 4 yards, I'm going to get you 3 yards. That's what Leroy Horde was. That's what Jordan Howard is. He's just a big, powerful back that's always going forward. And when you got offensive linemen that can block for that, it can look really good at times, but there's some limitations. The Eagles want the best of both worlds, but they got to get Miles Sanders to understand what he needs to do when the home run is not there.
Here's where I'll follow up on something you said that not only don't I understand it, but it actually annoys me a little bit because I saw an instance on social media over the weekend, and then I got a call on my WIP show last night. Buddy John Kincaid from 97.5 tweeted out over the weekend with the way that, and I don't have his Twitter in front of me, but I'm paraphrasing here, but I think I've got a grasp of it. The fact that Jordan Howard wasn't used early in the season was criminal negligence by the Eagles.
Come on.
Those were his words, criminal negligence. Last night on my radio show, someone said to me, and shame on the Eagles for not using Jordan Howard at the start of this season, that they could have won some of those games and beaten the 49ers if they had just had Jordan Howard in the backfield. I'm not remembering anyone saying this in August or week 1 or week 2 or week 3. I did not get any calls. We did not get any guys streaming in here with us on Birds 365. Let's get Jordan Howard up from the practice squad. How are they not using Jordan Howard? They've got Jordan Howard on the practice squad. They weren't even protecting him. You know, they've got the practice squad protection so nobody can come and pick off a guy. He wasn't even in that group. They were protecting third string offensive linemen over Jordan Howard. He was there for anyone in the league to go, yeah, okay, we'll take Jordan Howard. So if it's criminal negligence on the Eagles' part, which is ridiculous, it's criminal negligence on part of all 32 teams in the NFL.
Yeah, I got some of that because you remember when Jordan came and played well, and then Derrick Henry got hurt, and everybody was like, "Oh, the Eagles better sign him to the 53-man roster." They still had another practice squad elevation. I said, "Don't worry about it. They're fine. They'll elevate him when they need to elevate him." And that was after the second time because he was out of elevations. Then they did it. There was no sense of urgency. They didn't have to worry about it. Again, this is a guy who admitted himself, Jody, not Johnny Mac. Don't yell at me. Don't yell at Jody Mac. This is a guy who admitted himself. He was getting no calls. Everybody thought he was done. Now, I said back in the summer, and I still believe this, Jordan Howard deserved to make this team over the summer. He had a good training camp. He lost weight. He knew his career was on the line. If the COVID rules weren't extended and we were back to the old rules, he would have been on the 53. He would have made this football team. But because he had the COVID rules, the Eagles could say, well, he could put a veteran guy on the practice squad. They took advantage. It was actually good roster manipulation.
Correct.
They had the ability to do it. They did it. They took advantage of the current rules. And when they needed him, they plucked him, and he's played well. And now you start to say, okay, for whatever reason, we're a better football team. Now, part of that it's not just Jordan Howard. The fact that you have Jordan Howard now sets you off on this sort of thinking that, okay, we got to go straight ahead. We got to use that young offensive lineman. So it's sort of like a butterfly effect, and it creates different thinking. Whereas when you have Miles Sanders, you say, we have a good running back. We don't have to worry about these types of things because Miles can make something out of nothing and all that. And it becomes this sort of weird crutch, the fact that you don't think about doing things perhaps 100% the right way and making all the parts fit together. Now I think the Eagles have seen it, have seen what it can do, have seen what it can do to this offense, have seen what it can do to help Jalen Hurts, because Jalen Hurts is not a 3rd and 13 quarterback. Now, nobody wants to be in 3rd and 13. We all know that. We can all acknowledge that. But if you're in 3rd and 13, there are certain guys you want playing quarterback, certain guys who can overcome that. He's not one of those guys for the most part. You want to be in 3rd and 3. If you're in 3rd and 3 with Jalen Hurts, you're in business because you can do all these different things. You can use his running ability. You can use the RPO stuff. You can throw the football. The offense is like, I don't know what's coming. The defense, excuse me. I don't know what's coming. 3rd and 13? No, you want Patrick Mahomes at 3rd and 13.
Eagles on 3rd and 13 these days. I'm going back to the schoolyard. Everybody go long, and we'll get Jalen to pump fake it and take off and try and run. That's your best shot at getting 13 yards. It's send everybody down the field and see if Jalen can run for 13. And on Jordan Howard, Coyote Awasika, if I pronounce his name correctly, I never got that one right. LaRaven Clark. These were the guys they were protecting on the practice squad, that they would put the protection on them over Jordan Howard. So the entire league had their chance to take Jordan Howard, and nobody did. If anything, I think the Eagles should be getting credit for it after his return last year, which, oh, by the way, after he was cut with the Dolphins. And you remember how bad he was with the Dolphins? People forget that. Yeah. He averaged like 1.2 yards per carry. And finally, at about week 10, the Dolphins go, all right, we screwed up by signing this guy. Just get him off the team. The Eagles scoop him up. He plays a couple of games. I think he got 7 carries over the 2 games that he played. Yeah. He didn't wow anybody.
No.
But even after that, they said, Jordan, you want to come back to our camp? Nobody else is calling you?
Nobody was calling him. And he said, and to his credit, by the way, Jordan talked to us last week. He knew, like, he was overweight. He was playing too heavy. He knew he had to get back in shape to where he once was. He is much more explosive than he was in Miami. He did all the right things, and he's taken advantage of this second opportunity. But I do think, and you've been taking calls for forever in Philadelphia, and it's a very provincial town. They're not paying attention to what went on in Miami and how poor that he played, and just, the fact that nobody was interested in the guy because of how poor he played in Miami. And he had some goodwill. They're going back really to the first time he was here. And if you remember that was Miles Sanders' rookie season. And what happened is the Eagles started Miles Sanders. He was the running back 1 from week 1, and he wasn't playing well. And all of a sudden, they had a committee approach, but Miles was getting the vast majority of the touches. And all of a sudden, they said, all right, let's try Jordan Howard. It was the Buffalo game, the windy game in Buffalo, if you remember that. He was great. And then he played Chicago, his old team, and he was great. And he won the job. The Eagles shifted with Doug Peterson. They shifted. Jordan Howard was going to be the running back 1. And then he came up with the shoulder injury, the stinger, and he was essentially done for the season. And they had to go back to Miles Sanders. And then Miles picked it up and started playing a little bit better. That's what they're going back to, I think. He was playing well, and now he's playing well again. But he doesn't have Miles Sanders' talent. So the Eagles said, they're still trying. They're still trying to get him to be the running back that he should be, to be the running back that some Eagles fans think he is. But he hasn't been that guy. And they're still going to try to get there. He's going to play.
Here's why I'm having trouble believing that it has to do with going back to Jordan Howard's first trip in with the Philadelphia Eagles. That was a whole nother coaching staff. Is Howie Roseman really?
Well, I meant the fans. I don't mean the Eagles. I mean the fans. When they think, like when John Kincaid was saying, it's what was the term he used?
Criminally negligent.
I think he's thinking. I don't know. I can't get into people's minds, But when people say things like that, I think they're going back to that when Jordan Howard was good. Jordan Howard was a two-time Pro Bowl running back, two-time 1,000-yard rusher in Chicago, was a one-time Pro Bowl player in Chicago. He's a good player. They also used him a lot. We know how running backs are; they get a lot of touches, and it goes downhill pretty quickly. And that's what it looked like happened to Jordan Howard. He was, as you mentioned, Jody, he was not good in Miami to say the least. So whether you think he's the same player he was in Chicago or the first season in Philadelphia, why ever people think he's a great running back, he's probably not a great running back at this stage. And you you definitely want Miles Sanders back in the lineup. You just got to figure out how to get Miles Sanders to understand every play doesn't have to be a home run.
All right, two things before we take a quickie timeout here. Number one, did he really make the Pro Bowl twice?
No, once.
Once.
I corrected myself.
Okay.
2-time 1,000-yard rusher.
1,000-yard rusher. I was going to say, I don't remember him being that good for 2 years. It's kind of an indictment on the Pro Bowl where guys drop out and guys drop out and guys drop out.
It's not necessarily that important, but he was a good player. He had
one really good year in Chicago. I'll give you that. Here's what I see coming down on Sunday. And again, God, pile on, Eagle fans, because I'm taking the negative spin here. All three running backs activated. There's a chance. I would bet more on
all four.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're going to activate all four. I think Gainwell's going to be inactive this week. Just my read on it. Maybe I'll be wrong. We won't find out till Sunday. But I think Scott, Howard, and Sanders will all be active, and they'll all get some touches. And at the end of the day, Miles Sanders will have 2 plays for either 0 yards gained or negative yards, and he's going to have one 18 to 20-yard run. And Boston Scott and Howard will have, neither one of them will have a play more than a 12-yard game. Miles will have the biggest single individual run of any Eagle back. And then they chant, I got to get Miles back as the lead back. He'll have the least carries of the three. The chances are Howard will get the most and Scott will get the second most. And Miles will get the third most, but Miles will get the biggest gain. And then next week, people go, you not use Miles' head. Miles needs to be elevated to the lead back. Miles gives us a chance to get into the end zone. Mark my words, it's going to happen this week.
Well, remember, Jody, the Eagles have the luxury of the 21-day practice window. They can say Miles needs some time. He needs a week in practice and not even activate him. They have some time once he's designated to return, which I assume will be coming Wednesday. Then they don't have to put him on the roster. They have 21 days to put him back on the roster. Now, I don't think they're going to use that 21 days. They're certainly going to go up to Saturday. So we're not going to know if he's going to play. Now, you can activate him at any time. They might do it before. They might take their time. I will say the missed block, Kenny Gainwell's the third down back, the hurry-up back. It's been that way all year. I don't think they want to ship that. Now, he did miss the block, and that was pretty egregious. And one of the reasons he's in there, the main reason, is his ability as a pass receiver, but also his pass protection. Well, if he's not pass protecting, then you might be able to talk yourself into Boston Scott as the third down back or however you want to handle it. It's not going to be Miles Sanders. So you need the third down hurry-up back. I don't think they're going to go away from Kenny Gainwell. Now, if you see a couple more of those plays and it keeps getting worse, then maybe I think they'll revisit it a couple weeks down the line.
All right, well, and I'm going to hold your feet to the fire, make the call right now.
Oh, I think all four are going to be active.
You do think all four will be activated. Where are they coming up short? Because if you're going to play 4 backs and you haven't played 4 backs all year, I haven't activated 4 backs all year.
It's easy. Think about all the players that never play. Patrick Johnson, Teron Jackson. You got 97 cornerbacks. They make most of them inactive.
Davion Taylor's starting to play well, and both Jackson and Johnson played this past week. Not many snaps, but you want to completely take them out of the mix?
Well, Davion Taylor, no, he's a starting linebacker. I mean, he's a big part of this team's defense now. But the guys who don't play, and you have to look at special teams as well.
I was going to say that's another thing. They like their special teams guys. The special teams coach has
I mean, you have to play the Andre Sacherays of the world just because they're good special teams players. But I'm talking about the guys who don't get reps. So if you're talking about like this week, all right, who was active? Suo Peta. Okay, who cares? JJ is injured. Who cares? He might not even be healthy anyway. Patrick Johnson got 2 reps and actually made a decent play. But who cares? Teron Jackson, it's easy. Boston Scott's a good special teams player as well. So it's not like you're losing something because he would be the odd guy out to me.
Right. So you're going to sit Teron Jackson, give Derek Barnett that much more of an opportunity to make a stupid penalty?
No, I've said I'm looking at last week. From last week, Suo Peta would be the easiest decision. He would sit. Then it would be JJ's probably hurt anyway, and that's probably going to be the avenue they take because he's not healthy. Excuse me. And then I'm just going down the list.
You're going with just 3 wide receivers?
Well, they only go with no. Greg Ward is still active, although you wouldn't know it.
That's a perfect lead into break. I'm going to make my case. You know that Greg Ward was my training camp darling this year, that I thought he was still going to be an effective role player and have a role on this football team. He's had a role rooting, cheering for his teammates. That's about it. But look at the percent. I can almost guarantee you he is the number 1 guy in the National Football League percentage of touchdown catches for the amount of catches that he gets.
He was a big part of the red zone offense early.
He's got 3 catches, 2 touchdowns. How do you not get a guy like that on the field? When you have that kind of a percentage, 3 catches, 2 touchdowns, here's a suggestion, Nick. Maybe you play him a little bit more. Maybe get Jalen Reagor the hell off the field and get my guy Ward on the field for more than just 1 snap a game? Is that what he averages, John? About a snap a game?
He got 6 snaps in Denver. 6 snaps.
6.
JJ got 1 and he got hurt on it.
What a decoy he is. I'd say throw him the football, but we'll come back talk about that some more. He is John McMullen. I am Jody McDonald. You've got Mac and Mac here on Birds 365.